Okay, so the 3 steps to lasting change. If you want to change anything, whether this is a behavior in yourself, your spouse, or somebody else, or a client. So I am currently taking the Tony Robbins course in leadership, which is about creating change in other people, which is something I've always wanted to do to evolve as a leader and hadn't gotten around to it. And then when they made the offer a week after UPW that for a small monthly whatever fee, membership fee, you could get access to every course ever. I said, oh my God, that's irresistible. Sign me up. So 3 steps to lasting change. Number 1, you have to get leverage. People don't change unless they are disturbed enough to change. How many of us have a bad habit or something going on, or have done something at some point in our life that we knew wasn't good for us or wasn't serving us, but we did it anyway until something came along that forced us to change, that disrupted us enough to change? So that could be someone who's really overweight. They have a heart attack. And then they really decide, okay, I really have to cut out the junk food. I really have to start exercising. I really have to take care of myself. Or I have had clients who changed that part of their life because they had kids. When they became a parent, they said, ooh, I want to stick around. I want to walk her down the aisle one day. I've got to get my physical fitness in shape. Or there have been times, for example, I've failed at this. My grandmother, who passed away a while ago, like 10, 11 years ago, she was a lifelong smoker. And when I was 14, 15, she started having smoking related health issues. And I saw an infomercial. This was way before, 30 years ago, before the internet. I saw an infomercial on TV one night, and it was for a device that would help you stop smoking. And it was this little handheld computer thing, and you would push the button every time you smoked a cigarette for the first 2 weeks. And then from then on, it would beep and tell you when you could smoke. And it would gradually, it would know, so it knew how many you were smoking normally, and then it would gradually wean you off. And I saved up the money for my paper route for months, and then got my dad to give me a money order, mailed it out, and bought this thing. And then I went and saw my grandmother, who in the Jewish culture we call Bubby. And I said, Bubby, I don't want you to die. I got you this. And I was being an amateur psychologist at the time. I thought a crying grandson going, look, I saved up my money for 3 months to buy this thing for you so you could stop smoking, would get her to quit. It did not. She was like, oh, that's very sweet of you. I'm so sorry you did that. Tell me how much it is and I'll give you the money. I was like, I don't want the money. I want you to use it. She didn't care. She smoked until she died and was in a hospital with emphysema and an aneurysm, and was complaining that they wouldn't let her smoke in a hospital. So I didn't have enough leverage to get her to change. And her imminent demise did not get her to change. So the threat of death was not a powerful enough leverage for her. So I was wrong. I didn't think, to me, there was no possibility that she would not do it. I didn't realize at the time that isn't everybody's problem. That isn't everybody's fear. They might have had there might have been something else that moved her, but I never found out what it was because I only tried one thing. So number 1, we've got to get leverage on ourselves or somebody else. Then we have to interrupt the pattern. So you have a pattern of behavior now. For example, every day when I'm the first one into the office, I turn the light on. I go over to the coffee machine and turn it on for everybody in our office who drinks coffee because I don't drink coffee. Then I go to the copier room and I turn on the copier because I print more than anybody else. And then I go into my office. That's my pattern. Same way every day. I drive the same route to work. All right, well, it changes if I'm taking children to school or not. But other than that, I drive the same way. So you have emotional patterns. When X happens, I feel Y. Or if I'm stressed, then I eat Oreos. Or whatever your pattern is. You have positive patterns. For example, my morning routine, I get up, I listen, I go which part of it changed since Tony Robbins. I listen to a paraliminal on my cell phone. There's a sleep deeply one I listen to right before bed, and there's a wake refreshed one I listen to first thing in the morning while I am bouncing on the trampoline in the basement, doing Tony Robbins priming breathing, doing my moves and my incantations, and my exercise. And then when it is time to get ready for work, I then go do another Tony Robbins breathing exercise in a freezing cold shower for 2 minutes and then take a regular shower. But I've changed my patterns and I'm conditioning new patterns that are positive, empowering, and get me in a peak emotional and physical state. And then number 3, you've got to reinforce that new pattern. So once you've interrupted the old one, you have to replace it with something new and you have to reinforce it. So if you were learning an instrument, you wouldn't pick up an instrument for the first time and expect to be able to play it well. You would practice your scales. You would learn where the notes were. You would ultimately start figuring, learning to read sheet music and learning songs. And you would create neural associations and new patterns in your brain. So we have to find ways to reinforce the new pattern. One of those is to reward yourself. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, don't go reward yourself for doing the diet by going to eat a jumbo order of chicken wings. It won't work. It's got to be a pattern that is positive. So for example, for every monthly revenue goal increase I've set for myself in our firm, I set up a reward. So right now, my latest reward is going to be, I want to buy myself, where is it? Can I easily access it? I want to buy myself a new, I have it. So one of my bucket list goals is to be a Hollywood screenwriter. I don't want to quit my job. I want to sell a screenplay to Hollywood and have it made into a movie. So the last time I wrote screenplays, I had this software. You'll see how old it is because it's on a CD-ROM. And it has a picture of Back to the Future on it. And it's Movie Magic Screenwriter 2000. That was the last time I physically wrote a screenplay. Well, I've been focused on storytelling for our clients' stories for the last umpteen years. So my new pattern happened because of my daughter, Ella. She's a 12-year-old musical theater actress, and I would love to get her to Hollywood. And my wife's blog and her first book would make an incredible sitcom. So I said, I have written, and I have also been frustrated over the years with the children's movies that we take our kids to see. And I have said numerous times, I'd like to see some movies with some more empowering, uplifting messages for kids. And I'd like to see some movies that aren't necessarily animated cartoons. I'd like to see a movie that the adults would actually like to watch that is kid friendly and everybody enjoys it. So I don't get stuck watching another cartoon of animals. So I wrote 2 movie treatments, which is like the outline for a movie. I had a Emmy award-winning television writer look at them and give me feedback. I've gotten a list of the management companies that are open to new submissions in Hollywood, but he told me they don't take treatments. They're going to want to see the screenplay. So my next reward when I hit our next revenue goal is I will buy the 2021 version of this software and start actually writing the screenplays. And I have a 30-day plan to get each one written in 30 days. So I'm rewarding my revenue behavior with something else that I want. And I will set mini reward goals for every 5 pages a day I write, because in 30 days, I'll have 150 pages. I am doing that right now with my 9th book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with Podcasts. I'm writing 1 chapter a day, and I have to finish it by, I think it's April 16th, when the Publishizer, which is like Kickstarter for books, when the Publishizer crowdfunding campaign ends, I've got to have a book ready to ship out to all of you who have been nice enough to buy it and all the cool bonuses you get with it. So get leverage, interrupt the pattern, and then reinforce the new pattern. So these are some really cool graphics that one of the attendees who happened to be in my 300-person breakout made. She's obviously some type of illustrator. And these were, she's got some stuff in here that we covered. And then she's got some stuff in here that we didn't cover. So we talked about see things for what they are, see it better than it is, and then make your vision real. The real test of life is what you do when things aren't going your way. You know, Steve Jobs said, or Jeff Bezos said, your culture is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Tony said the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions, which is why it's most important to stay in a beautiful, what he calls a beautiful emotional state. We talked about the success cycle. We talked about your emotional home. Something really interesting is if you look at like a movie like The Matrix, you don't necessarily experience life. You experience the meaning you're attaching to life, because someone could go through the exact same experience that you're having and feel differently about it. Shakespeare said there is no experience of life other than the meaning of which we give it. My wife and I have this discussion all the time, because we'll talk about, wait a second, I think she's having a different emotional reaction than I would have in the same situation. And I'll say, why are you getting so upset about that? That's not a big deal. She thinks it is. I do not. Hence conflict. I have learned, I'm stubborn. It took me a few, I won't even say how many times or years to figure out that what she calls minimizing her emotional response just makes it worse and makes her mad. So if she feels understood, I have a much better shot at making progress than if I tell her she shouldn't feel how she feels.
By the way, did everyone notice he said debate and change that to discussion just like that? He's learning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am fully under the bus. Tony also said, do you focus on what already happened, what's happening right now, or the future? Think about, what do you tend to focus on? My personal stress is all future worries. I'm not a past guy. Now, I don't know if my wife is still here, so we're about to find out. I will use another example that is close to home. My father-in-law lives in the past. Like, he is, I don't know, 70 something. And he is very obsessed with the past and his childhood, and his only child and his mom. And I hear a lot of times about something that already happened. Now, it's been interesting. There's been a shift in the last year because of COVID. Now he's obsessed with COVID. But before then, it was all like, there was a lot of past focus. Another thought that affects your emotional state is, do you focus on what you have or what you're missing? If you focus on what you have, you're grateful. If you focus on what you're missing, you get upset. If you focus on what you can control, you feel empowered. If you focus on what you can't control, you're disempowered. So if you change your emotions, if you change what you focus on, you literally change your experience of reality. You don't have to change you. You have to just change your emotional patterns. We talked, there were some business specific sections where he talked about who is your ideal customer, what do they want or fear the most, and then how do you come up with an irresistible offer and over deliver that, which is something we're trying to do every single day here with you. I like to quote, biography is not destiny. The past isn't your future unless you live there. So you can stay obsessed with what happened to you 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or you can get busy creating something amazing. If you, one of my favorite quotes was, if you divorce the story of your limitations and marry the story of your unlimited potential, you can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created it in the first place. So you have to change how you are thinking in order to come up with a solution to something. And even though Tom and Maria and I had this discussion earlier this morning, where I think Tom said 80% of success is showing up, Tony would say 80% of success is psychology. Clarity is power. The results come from the actions you take. I'm going to disagree with the very famous book and movie, The Secret, and say, you can't just sit on a couch and meditate and say, I have a Ferrari, I have a Ferrari, I have a Ferrari. The car was not going to show up in your driveway. You can say all that, and then you have to actually go do the work to make the money to get the Ferrari, and then magically it shows up. And then there are two things that are the most important skills that determine your life. There is the science of achievement, how you set and achieve your goals, and the art of fulfillment. And in Tony's words, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And he told a half-hour-long story about Robin Williams, who had achieved everything, mastered the science of achievement, and still killed himself because he was depressed because he hadn't mastered the art of fulfillment. So the three principles of the science of achievement are your focus. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if you focus on what's wrong, if you focus on what you're upset about, if you focus on what could go wrong, that's where you will create it. Your energy will go in that direction. If you focus on everything amazing and that you have to be grateful for and the exciting things that are happening, you'll get more of that. The universe abhors a vacuum. It will fill with whatever you send it for whatever spiritual beliefs you have. The second part, number one, is focus. Number two is massive action. And you can speed up your execution and your learning, as Craig talked about, by learning from others' experience. I ask that question on every single podcast I do. I say, a lot of the times we learn more from avoiding other people's failures than we do trying to emulate their success. I can't, no matter how hard I try and work out, I am not going to turn into Michael Jordan. I just can't. I physically don't have the same gifts. However, so me trying to emulate his success is going to be a lot harder for me. But if I ask the question, what are some of your biggest learning experiences, i.e. failures, and what you learn from them, I can learn a lot more because I can learn from the principles of him saying, hey, I missed 1,000 shots. I missed over and over and over again. And that's why I succeed. And this is my principle of shooting 1,000 shots before every practice and 1,000 after. I can learn relentless preparation and execution, and I can implement that in my own life in a different form. I'm not going to shoot 2,000 free throws because I don't want to be an NBA superstar at 44. And then there's the grace. My favorite quote that actually isn't from Tony is, luck is a dividend of sweat. The more you sweat, the luckier you get. One of my other favorite ones is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You have to be, the more you work, the luckier you seem to get. So I'm going to put you back in breakouts, and you are going to talk about what you got from all of that. And what are the first two things you're going to implement, change, or work on? Does that make sense? Nod.